So I came out to dump our tanks and fill up our water tank. I was dumping our black tanks and dumping our gray tanks. Well, I wasn't planning on sharing this because I mean, it's one of those things that's like, nobody wants to hear about that. It's a private issue, and it's like one of those things that you don't talk about. But anyway, as I was doing it, I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and just share it with you. It's ugly. It's definitely not pretty, and it's not, but it is a mistake that a lot of people make. Now, I made this once when back when we had this, when we were wintering in Missoula last winter, and it was the first time that we were staying in an RV through the winter, so a lot of mistakes were made, and it was one that I was never going to make again. Well, the last time that I filled up my water tanks and I dumped my black and gray tanks, I left one open, and it's been like 3 days. I usually do it every 3 days, and dump the tanks and fill up the water. Well, I come out and my entire hose, it's not pretty. I've got the plastic pulled down, and I've got the hose all off its track and everything. But yeah, it was frozen solid. And it wasn't the gray tank, it was the black tank. So needless to say, I've spent hours, and the only way that I have figured out to do this, to be able to flush it out and to de-thaw it, is, first of all, I'm not waiting until an above freezing day, because that could be weeks. Yeah, weeks. So I was going to say months, but hopefully it may be in the upper 30s next week. And anyway, it had to be dumped. So I'm out here with hot buckets of water, with pots of boiling water on the stovetop. Every pot that I have is filled with hot water. So I don't want it too hot that it's going to actually melt my rhino hose, but I have to get it hot enough that it's going to melt the snow inside, or the ice. I'm sorry, the poop ice inside the hose. Well, it's not been fun, and it's taken hours, and it's a constant because I have to continue to work it out down the line to get it broken loose, because if I let it sit there idly while I'm waiting on the next batch of water to boil, it freezes again. So what I've done is, and like I said, overlook this mess. That is not usually how my pipe looks, but it is. So I started at the top right here and just started working my way down, pouring warm water on it. I discovered a little hole. Yeah, that brown stuff is the yucky stuff. And there's just a little pinprick. I'll be able to repair it until we get a new hose with just some Gorilla tape. Once it dries out, I can just stick the tape on there, or maybe even some type of putty. But anyway, it's just a tiny little prick, and we'll cover it up, plug it, and then replace the hose just as soon as we can. But yeah, that's been my morning, and like I said, oh my goodness, rookie mistake. That is not something that you forget to do. It was just, I was busy, it was cold. I usually go over everything in my mind as far as draining tanks and closing tanks and making sure all my nozzles are all in the right direction so we don't have mistakes. And then I make the simplest mistake. So it can happen to anyone. And I bet if you have wintered in an RV and it stayed below freezing, this has probably happened to you before. It's not something that we like to talk about, but it's real. Remember, close all tanks, because just like an icicle, it will form, and it's not pretty, and it's not fun to de-thaw. So. Finally, we have broken free. This is terrible. So, that is it. It has literally been like 4 hours, maybe even longer, since I started this. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. But it's part of life. And you don't want to make it. So if you're wintering in an RV and you have the question about leaving your lines open, don't do it. Don't do it. Just dump it. Just close them and dump them as often as you need to. Whenever they get full, just dump them. It was not my intention of leaving that open. It was just a mistake. But it won't be one I'll be making anytime soon. I hope not. Because this is not fun. This is not fun at all.